It says, again, I read over, Romans 5 and 8. It says, this power commended his love toward us, in that while we were yet sinners, so it explains the ungodly, while we were yet sinners, before I continue. What is sin? Transgression of the law. 1 John chapter 3 and verses 4. Whosoever committed sin, also the law for sin is the transgression of the law. Who was given the law? I get a precept immediately because we implement that. We get the New Testament because people like to talk too much when they're ready about the old. We get it in the new too. It matches, and from there you leave it alone. Romans chapter 9 verse 1 salah. It says, I say the truth in Hamashiach, I lie not. So it says, my conscience bearing me witness in the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. So in other words, Paul is authoring this, and he is receiving this in the Holy Spirit. That means it is impossible for you to utter a lie or deceive any if the Spirit of truth is dwelling within. That I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart, for I could wish that myself were accursed from Hamashiach for my brethren. What that brethren goes into? Fellow countrymen and tribe. My kinsmen. What kinsmen goes into? Your lineage. Your lineage. Your bloodline or your lineage. Which his kinsmen goes back toward Israel. According to the flesh. So outwardly, inwardly. Lineage and country. Who are Israelites. Who are what? Israelites. Here's the point. To whom pertaineth. What it means by pertaineth? Who it belongs to. Who it is for. To whom pertaineth the adoption. So the early grafting in. And the glory. And the covenants. And we know it was only for the children of Israel. As we read it. The everlasting covenant. And the giving of the law. For who? Pertains to Israel. And the service of God to Israel. And the promises that was made to Israel, that we are going to be above and not beneath. We are going to be the head and not the tail. That's a promise unto us. He's not going to forsake his seed. We are going to be saved by the Messiah when he returns. That's the promise. We are going to be above all nations, and they are going to be under captivity from us. This is part of the promise. He's going to give the elect, right, to rule with a rod of iron against the heathen nations. That's a promise. He's going to bring us back together, to set back in our land. That's a promise. We will not be able to sin no more, and we will be, of course, immortal. They will be living forever. That's a promise. So, just to reiterate, the law is for us. It's only for us. So when they go back into Romans, the sinners, for those who are newer, the sinners according to the scriptures, those who could have transgressed, were those who were covenant, who were a covenant with the Heavenly Father and were given the laws to keep. This is why it says in Leviticus 26 and 46, straight to the point, it says, these are the statutes and judgments and laws which Yahweh made between him and the children of Israel in Mount Sinai by the hand of Moses. This is in the book of laws. This is in Torah, your laws. This is in your law. This is a law. A part of history making a law. This is it right here. It was given to who? The children of Israel. Old and new agrees with that. Let's continue. Let's go back into Romans. I have to take my time with this because this is going to connect why Paul was writing to who? The Greeks. And who are the Greeks? We already identified who is the Greeks. It makes you understand why now Paul gravitated to bring these people into the fold, because they are of the same seed. And then we're going to go back into the Maccabees and show you that our people, aside what we've shown before, they can have the heathen and Greek custom becoming Greeks, were also did that forcefully also. They couldn't profess themselves to be a Jew anymore. or Israelite anymore. I will show you that. Let's continue. Verse 9. Much more then, being justified by his blood, the Messiah, we shall be saved from wrath through him. Verse 10. Listen, pay attention. For if we were enemies, in other words, not keeping the ways of God, being against the ways of God, which our people did, like we showed, many of the wicked of Israel, what did they do? They went into they went to join themselves with the heathens. It was of their idea to what? Go to the heathen, the king, to get license to do these things and be a part of their nation. They are actually called the wicked in Israel. They are the enemies. So listen, we will reconcile to God by the death of his son. The Paul is saying is much more being reconciled, we shall be saved by his life. Before we continue with that, what does the word reconciliation mean? Reconciliation, the re-establishment of friendly relations. Pause. Who did the Father, as we read enough time, had a friendly relation with? Only Israel. It's in the New Testament, it's in the covenant in the Old Testament. And let me get two favorite precepts that I like to add all the time, that people know they can't disprove and they get vexed by it because they don't like to hear the truth. Joel 2 and verses 27. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am Yahweh your power, and none else. And my people shall never be ashamed. Who is the Lord's people? Israel. So therefore, who does he have the friendly relationship with? Israel. Let's get our next precept. Baruch. We done. Apocrypha now. Baruch chapter 3 and verse 36. And it says, he had found out all the ways of knowledge, and had given it unto Jacob his servant, and to Israel his beloved. Who did the Father had friendly relationship with? Israel. So they being reconciled to, again, they've fallen off and having to be reconciled, fallen off due to Hellenization, had to be reconciled back to who? Him. Before that salvation is to take place for them, which is why also Paul said in Romans 11:26, and so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written. That's why they are going to be saved. Before they are saved, they have to reestablish that friendly relation with them, with him, with the Father. So I read it again, because we see the definition. So this makes a more clarity to what the verse is saying. So for when we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of his son, much more being reconciled, we shall be saved by his life. Straight to the point. So now again, to the others listening out there, who were they that were reconciled? If the Father only knew Israel, and let me get an next precept to make sure you understand this. The Father only knew Israel. Of course, the other nation was created for their purpose, but he created Israel and chosen them for a reason. Let's read. 2 Ezra chapter 6 and verse 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. All this, so before we brushing past that, we all came, and the chosen also would have there. But let's hit the difference. The reason why it was mentioned, because they were separated from the others. Hence, all of them here, and also the chosen. Continue, verse 55. All this have I spoken before thee, O Yahweh, because thou madest the world for our sakes, which goes back into Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verses 6. Let me grab it before you continue into this. Deuteronomy 7 and verses 6. Straight to the point. It says, for thou art an holy people, talking to Israel, unto Yahweh thy power, and Yahweh thy power had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So as we read, it's talking about who? Israel, that chosen seed that is the word is created for. Verse 655. It says, all this have I spoken before thee, O Yahweh, because thou hast made the world for our sakes. That's Israel's sakes, not everybody else. That is why initially he was given to rule the earth. But because of all transgression, he put in a death state for our disobedience, as a form of chastisement, a chastening, until we catch ourselves and come back to power. They're going to be reinstated as top rulers of the earth, above every nation. Verse 56, referring to the other people, right? For those who like to say and think that the other nations, the Father is reconciling them to, because he had a relationship with them and they are important to him. Let's read. As for the other people which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing. What he say? They are nothing, but be like unto spittle, as liken the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. They are nothing to him. They are absolutely dog water. Actually, dog water is better than spit. They're actually less than dog water. So like, I have to correct myself. Right there. We didn't write this. So going back now, understanding that is only for the children of Israel. Only they were the ones to be reconciled. Now you understand why Paul wrote how he wrote. You have to understand textual language and the purpose of the prophets. The prophets, according to Ezekiel, son of man, I've read. Let me get the precept now. Ezekiel 3 and verses what? 17. It said, son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of who? Israel. What you feel the prophets is for? Prophets is there to what? Receive the prophecies, watch to see, hey, this is coming, and warn the people before it comes. Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, hear the words at my mouth, and give them warning from me. Because the Father is going to deliver that judgment unto them when they keep disobeying. And we see when we underwent many captivities, bitter bondages, and still yet many of our people hasn't learned. So going back, again, it is for Israel. Now we could show you in the Maccabees, and many of our people had became Greeks. They couldn't profess anymore to be themselves. They had to profess to be one people, which is Greeks or Gentiles, and that is it. If they hadn't partaken of that, they would be unalive. So what do you think Israel did? Let's read it now, man. Let's read it. Let's go into the little information here quick. Let's go into it before we go back. We have to go back into the information given for ChatGPT to conclude the lesson. Let us show you what Paul's writing is talking about. And so far we give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hints. So 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 6, straight to the point. It says, verse 1. It says, not long after this, the king set an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of God, and to pollute, you see what the king do? And to pollute all the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus. I believe that will go back to Janus, or Janus, Janus, is I believe is a Greek god that would have worshipped back then, a god of time, something like that. But let's just stick to what we know right now. I don't want to butcher it. It says and in the garrison of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwell in the place. The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and revelling by the Gentiles, who dealt with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places. So they were defiling the temples, and besides that brought in things that were unlawful. 5. The altar also was filled with profane things which the law forbiddeth. See, there's more. Here's the point, and I want you to listen to this. There's 2 parts to show you that Israel verbatimly became a Greek or Gentile. Verse 6, let's listen to this. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath days or ancient fast, or to profess himself to be a Jew. So if you was unable to say, hey, I'm from the tribe of Benjamin, I'm from the tribe of Levi, I'm from Judah, Levi and Judah, and then the land of Greece, whether it be Antioch, whether it be Ptolemy, whether it be Thessalos, I believe, whether it be Corinth, whether it be Ephesus again, or whether it be Colossus, all these other Greek names for the cities of Greek. If they were unable to call themselves after their heritage, or they would be unalived, what would they then be calling themselves in the land of Grecians? From the land of Grecians. Which is why the New Testament has recorded them or reported them to be what? Greek-speaking Jews. Do you now see the importance of the Apocrypha in the book, in the Bible? It connects the old with the new. So you now understand that it's actually Israel still he is speaking about. Not I will listen to my own way and what I want to believe, miss history with that bullshit, and then say these are Gentiles, these are actual heathens. No. What are y'all speaking? This is why when you don't adhere to sound doctrine by doing what? Studying to show yourself approved the right way, how do you do so? Scripture says what? 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verses 16. All scriptures, not some, all scriptures is given by the inspiration of God, which includes the Apocrypha, because it's canon to the Old and New Testament. It literally completes the entire book. Without the Apocrypha, you would continue to remain confused. With the Apocrypha, you have a complete understanding as to what's really going on. Which is why we are in the state that we are in today. Why were we in the Americas today? It was prophesied. Why were we in the Greek captivity? And it wasn't in the Bible. It's prophesied from Daniel straight up. The vision of the statue with the brass on the thigh, I believe, on the abdomen of the cases, and the close to the thigh, that brass which represents the Greek captivity, Greek rule. And in that Greek rule, as mentioned, there were one king. That one king had power beyond measures, which is Alexander the Great, who won many strongholds, took the crowns of the kings of the earth. And then before he died, he appointed 4 generals. In Daniel, it says, split by the kingdom split into 4 people, into 4 groups. The 4 generals that he appointed is who took the four parts. And then coming down a little while after, Antiochus Epiphanes was born, and then took rule, and then took over Ptolemaic side of empire, and continued reign. And he was counted as a king of fierce countenance. In other words, a grievous man. And it also said he would have done what? He would have destroyed, or in other words, my words, Ham, the mighty, and the holy people. Who are the holy people? Israel. Which we have record of him doing in Maccabees. They were in a destroyed state. Which is what we have record also in the New Testament, having to reconcile these same people that were destroyed through to Hellenization, to reconcile them back to Father, because they are of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. A full connection. Is this my saying? No. This is the history that they gave you. This is the Bible that was given to us. And this is what the definitions that they choose to give you. I then went out and contrary for what I went exactly according to what the scriptures and I said. And now the icing on top. The icing on top. Now you understand why it says. Galatians chapter 3 and verses 28. Now you understand why it says. Like read from verses. I guess you can read from verse 28, yes, because it's right there. Verse 27, just in case. Okay? It says, for as many of you as have been baptized in Hamashiach have put on Hamashiach, which is Christ, or to be anointed. It says, there is neither Jew nor Greek. Now you understand why it says Jew nor Greek. Because when you go into the word Greek, let's go into it. If you see Hellenize or Hellenes, you already know what he's talking about. There's only one major people that was Hellenized in such a devastated state. Because the other nations agreed to the commandments of the king. But many of our people has revolted against it. So let's read. If we see in the definition of Greek, literally Hellenist or Helen, then this concludes the lesson, having full connection of the New Testament connected to the Apocrypha, and the Apocrypha connected to the Old Testament. That's all I'm saying. Let's go into it. There's neither Jew nor Greek, right? Short definition, right? Good. Greek. Oh, look at what we saw. Oh gosh. Raise the volume.
Strong's G 1672. Hellene.
Do you see that? Do you see that? And it says, the inhabitants of Hellas, this is by extension a Greek-speaking people. Helen? Who was Hellenized? No, I shouldn't laugh. I'm not going to laugh. But these Christians are telling you, I don't know why. Who was Hellenized? It's in the history. It's in the history. Go into the Jewish encyclopedia. It's in the history. Who was Hellenized? Who was Hellenized as a made a whole? It was who? Aside from the other nations, but they agreed. Who was truly Hellenized? Israelites, Jakes, Jews. And at that time they became a dead state, being what? Non-Jew. They had no understanding anymore of the Torah and of the ways of the Father. They literally became Gentiles. So like read it. It says, by extension, a Greek-speaking person, especially a non-Jew, a Gentile or Greek. What just say? What we read? We just read that they were unable to profess themselves to be a Jew. So they had no choice but to call themselves what? A Greek or a Gentile. And this is the icing on the cake, you know? Because this is not it. This is it here. But here's the point. Go back in the second Maccabees chapter 6 and verses 9. Cut the truth. And whoso would not conform themselves to the manner of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might a man have seen the present misery. So in other words, why is many of all people living today? Because they conform to this manner and became Gentiles or Greek, or else we wouldn't be here. So we see Helen going back in the definition in the New Testament in Galatia. And you want to know why too? Because Galatia, I think Galatia, over the cases, was a city in Greek that was taken up by our people also. Let me grab that history fast before you close out. So the Greek cities mentioned in the New Testament, right? We had Ephesus, Corinth, Athens, Ephesus again, or Ephesus, right? It says Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, Laodicea, Trios, Colossus, which is Colossians, believe, Philippi, which is Macedonia, and Thessalonica. See, we have I don't know how to pronounce that. Lystria, Derby, and of course there's more now, but giving a very vague understanding. As a matter of fact, let me just show you this one time. Let's just to prove myself. Was Galatia a Greek city? Yes, Galatia was a region in Central Asia Minor, modern day Turkey. By the time of the New Testament, it was part of the Greek-speaking Eastern Roman world. If you ever wonder why the New Testament had names of places, then you have to make sure it's not from Greek. And if it was from Greek, then many of our people would have been there being Hellenized. That's why the names mentioned there, because all the names mentioned there representing these nations or countries or cities also represent where our people would have been. This is why this is why Paul makes sure and mention where he went is where he would mention. That's why his epistles was for Israel in those that are in a dead state. Now we could go into the further information that we're supposed to bring out from before and finish it off. Meaning the Gentiles, going back into the information, meaning the Gentiles receiving mercy are part of the same Israelite whole, now divided by status and awareness. Point 3. Hosea quoted by Paul, this is decisive. Romans 9 and verse 24 and 26. It says, I will call them my people, which were not my people. In Hosea, not my people is Israel under judgment. Not literal foreign nations. Paul explicitly applies this to his present Gentile audience. So Paul calls Israel Gentiles because the prophets already did. This is fully supports your addition. Greeks in Paul equals Hellenized status. We read that, right? We read that in the New Testament and the Apocrypha, right? Which matches together, direct. Romans 1 and 16. It says to the Jew first and also to the Greek. Let's grab that and see again. Romans 1 and 16, right? Let's see what the Greek is going into in Romans 1 and 16. We need to just get that real quick. Right? Romans 1 and 16. Romans 1 and 16. Romans 1 and 16. Let's read it again. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Hamashiach, for it is the power of God, or power unto salvation to everyone that believeth. It says to the Jews first and also the Greek. The Greek goes back into the word Gentile in the translation. So watch this. If this word is pagan or Hellen, because we became dead. Watch this. It better be. If it's not, I'm wrong. I'm wrong about this whole lesson.
Strong's G 1672. Helene.
Huh? Need I say anymore? Need I say anymore? I don't think I need to say anymore. Don't finish reading all the article, you close it out, right? And it says, I don't need to say anymore. That is the icing on top. Boom. Alright, let's go. Alright. says Greeks here is not ethnically only. Ethnic is not ethnicity only. In Paul's world, Greek is Hellenized subjects. Greek speaking outside Judah law order. So outside the ways of the Father, basically. That includes Israelites of the diaspora, which, perfect. Diaspora means scattered. We'll grab a precept and we'll show you after. Israelites of the diaspora, former Jews stripped of civic religious status. How were they stripped? We read it in 2nd Maccabees. They had to keep the ways of the Greeks. They cannot profess to be a Jew or else they would be unalive. So they were stripped because they were forced to do so, or else death. And many of them agreed, removed themselves from the ways of Yahweh Shemeshai, and kept the ways of the Greeks. So Israelites, former Jews, stripped of this religious status. Key hint: Torah ignorant descendants, those who descended after and knew not of the ways of the Father, the book of law and all these things, and the ordinances, of course. This is very clear. 1 Corinthians chapter confirms that the framework, Corinthians 10 verses 1, moreover, brethren, no brethren is fellow countrymen, so it had to be the same kin. I would not that ye should be ignorant. This is how that all our fathers were under the cloud. Right? It says, Paul says this to Corinthians, officially Gentiles. Yet he says, our fathers, Gentiles do not have fathers in Exodus. Unless they would have referred to what Israel, because their fathers in Exodus went through the captivity from Egypt and was saved by Moses, which the Father sent. Ended up in Mount Sinai in the same Exodus story and were given the ways and given the covenant was formed with Israel and the Father. So the fathers mentioned then would be referring to who? Those of the seed of Israel. This only makes sense if his Gentiles includes Israelites in Gentile conditions, which very clear conditions showed in the Apocrypha in Maccabees. Verse 6, Galatians, the lawless equals Gentile status. Galatians chapter 2 and verse 15. We who are Jews by nature and not sinners of the Gentiles. Sinners of the Gentiles equals Torah-less status. When Israelites abandoned the Torah, they entered into the category of Gentile. And this is not wrong, because let me give a precept to agree to this. Let's go into 2nd Esdras, another part of the Apocrypha, which aligns itself with the New Testament in Galatians chapter 3 and verse 15. We just read it. We just go into it. So let's read verse 33 and 34. 2nd Esdras chapter 2, 33 and 34. It says, I, Esdras, received a charge of Yahweh upon Mount Oreb, that I should go unto Israel. Who he went unto? Israel. But when I came unto them, they set me at naught and despised the commandment of Yahweh. And therefore I say unto you, O ye heathens. Who he went to? Israel. What did they do? Rejected the ways of the Father. And what did he call them? O ye heathens. Lines up with Galatians, who were Jews by nature and not sinners of the Gentiles. Sinners, Gentiles, Torah-less. It says, when Israel, going back into this, when Israelites abandoned the Torah, which did happen during the time when Ezra went in on Mount Oreb, when he went to them, and what did they do? They despised the commandment. They wanted to hear nothing of the ways of God. They abandoned the Torah. What happened to them? He called them heathen, because they entered into the category of heathen. Partaking of the customs of these heathen makes you heathen by status. So when Ezra called him heathen, that hear and understand, look for your shepherds, he shall give you an everlasting rest. For he is nigh at hand, that shall come to the end of the world. That is a very curse. They have to wait for the Messiah to come. When he comes, then they get saved. That is us today. Until then, have to wait. That's because of what happened with our forefathers. We have to now wait. So, continuing the lesson. Point 7. Last and complete. Non-biased conclusion, clear and bounded. Paul sometimes speaks of literal nations, yes, but in the manner of when he says salvation, it's referring to what? Israel. Paul often speaks of Israel under Gentile status. He is prophetic precedence in he uses prophetic precedence in Hosea. He never says the covenant is transferred or annual. He anticipates restorations of all Israel. None else. So who did Paul come to? So yes, in many of Paul's writing, Greeks and Gentiles are Israel in a Hellenized, lawless, covenant-disciplined condition. Not foreigners replacing Israel. This is a straight article. There's more, of course, but we'll close off there. Maccabee is right there, but we'll close off there. So that answers is scriptural 1, linguistic 2, historically consistent 3, aligns with your stated framework 4, proving 100% accuracy of historical accuracy, biblical standpoints from the Apocrypha, which was identified to the old, show record of the prophecies coming to pass, and lines up also with the New Testament. So for those who can't get it, can't fight you. But this is straight 100% undeniable fact that the Apocrypha, there's one main point, that there's more to it, of course, but the Apocrypha is 100% canon. So I hope this lesson was edifying. It says Shalom Yasharala, Kal Halalian Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakak Dash. We give double honors to the apostles and prophets and elders of GMS Camp, better known as Great Millstone, for the before the 100% truth that we currently edified under. Shalom to the elect, Tabernacle of David, and I am a brother Kazak from HOY, Heralds of Yahushai, saying to you, Shalom to the Achians, Shalom to the listeners, Shalom to the house of Israel.